Hi, and welcome back. I have to confess, I misled you all in a recent video. I presented a chain of plugins as a mastering chain, but it was no such thing. It was a lie. You've seen the thumbnail, no doubt. Yes, I am going to share with you my real, actual mastering chain that I use for 99% of my own mixes. But not at the start of the video, obviously. I'm not an idiot. Besides, we need to have a little talk first so that it makes sense. The first thing I want to say is, no, you can't just master on the mix bus while mixing. I'm not saying you shouldn't, I'm saying you can't. Whatever you do at the mix stage is mixing, not mastering. I don't care how many clippers, limiters, or OTTs you used. I don't care how many LUFs you achieved. I don't even care if you subsequently released it with no changes. Whatever you do at the mix stage is mixing, not mastering, and I will die on that hill. Let's have a little philosophical chat about what mastering actually is. It was originally purely a technical process of getting mixes into the correct physical format to be mass-produced. Any changes made to the sound were purely for technical reasons. For example, cutting low frequencies to prevent a stylus jumping out of the groove, or to fit more songs on one side of an LP. So, what counts as a technical issue? If a bunch of mixes come in from different sessions and different studios, and some of them sound brighter than others, is that a technical issue? Maybe. Whatever, we can fix it with EQ. Okay, what if the mix engineer didn't really finish the mix properly? Is that a technical issue? Doesn't really matter, we can fix it with EQ and multiband compression, and we can invoice for the time. These days, of course, the technical barrier is gone. No specialist hardware or software is required. The mix that comes out of your DAW is a WAV file, and the master that goes up to the distributor is also a WAV file. They might even have the same sample rate and bit depth. The difference between a mix and a master these days is purely conceptual. It becomes a master when you decide it's ready for release. That mix that you bounced through 3 OTTs and 2 Pro Ls that hits -2 LUFs integrated, it remains a mix until you listen to it the next day with fresh ears and think, yeah, that slaps, it's good to go. At which point, it becomes the master. Okay, now let's talk about how I approach mixing when I know they're going to be mastered by someone else. What do I leave for the mastering engineer to do? Well, just the limiter. Nothing else. Personally, I don't enjoy mixing into a limiter, and I think the decision about final loudness is best left for the mastering stage, as it might depend on the other songs around it. But everything else, everything about the sound of the mix, I handle at the mix stage. My goal is to produce a mix that the mastering engineer doesn't have to do anything to at all, apart from the final decision about loudness and limiting. I might never achieve that, but it remains my goal regardless. And I will throw anything I need to onto my mix bus to get me there. Compression, multiband compression, saturation, dynamic EQ, all that good stuff you might think of as mastering processing is, in my opinion, much better used at the mix stage when you can fine-tune the mix that's feeding it. Mastering a stereo mix often requires a lot of compromise. Maybe you find a multiband compressor setting that gives the mix the energy and punch it was missing, but it also changes the balance. Now the bass is overbearing and the snare is getting lost. The mastering engineer will then have to find some happy medium, a bit of extra energy without altering the perceived balance too much. But a mix engineer, using those same settings on the mix bus, doesn't have to compromise at all. They can have all the energy and punch, and also pull down the bass fader and push up the snare to retain the balance they want. Why on earth would you want to leave that for the mastering engineer who has way less control than you do at the mix stage? That processing chain from the other video that I presented as a mastering chain, that was in fact my mix bus chain copied from the Mixdown project. Okay, now imagine the plans changed. The client ran out of money for a mastering engineer and asked me to do it instead. Or maybe it's my own music and I was always going to master it myself. My approach to mixing doesn't change in that case. I'm still trying to produce a mix that the mastering engineer can't fault in any way, even when I'm going to be the mastering engineer. And I don't consider the mix finished until I think I've achieved that. So when I bounce the mix and pull it into a mastering session, what fresh insights will I have? I'm listening to the same monitors, in the same room, with the same ears and the same brain. The only way to get any new perspective is to do it on another day with fresh ears. I do quite often hear things that I missed in that case. If it's something simple, like maybe the mix is generally too warm and lacks high-end sparkle, I will throw on a high shelf boost and see if that fixes it. And sometimes that will make me completely happy with the mix again, and I'll end up with a high shelf boost in my mastering chain. More often, though, the issues I notice with fresh ears are subtler and more complex than that. And I'm not going to waste time trying to fix them with mastering tricks when I can just pull up the actual mix again and do it properly. One of the most powerful features of a modern DAW is full recall, so you can return to the exact same mix and make a couple of slight tweaks, even if you've done a dozen different mixes since then. Why would you not make use of that ability? So I can finally reveal my secret magic mastering chain. Maybe you guessed it already. Yes, that's right. It's just a limiter. Nothing else. Unless maybe a clipper as well, if the transients are particularly spiky. But I'm suggesting that if you're mastering your own mixes, you should do the same. Not because it's wrong to process your stereo mix to give it that final polish and shine, but because you've already done that on your mix bus, and you didn't bounce the mix until you were 100% happy with what you were hearing. Now, all of the above is assuming that when you take your mastered tracks out into the real world, you don't get any nasty surprises. Of course, different playback systems will sound different, but you should still recognise your mix as your mix, with the same balance you heard in your studio. If that's not happening, then realistically you have two options. Medium and long term, you need to fix your monitoring so it's not lying to you. That might mean upgrading your monitor speakers or adding a subwoofer. It probably means more acoustic treatment, or in extreme cases, moving to a less problematic room. Your short-term option is pay a competent mastering engineer. There's a reason why that profession still exists, even though the original technical aspects have vanished. Okay, that's all. Thanks for watching.